What's up, guys? Raziel here, and I have another video for you today. First, I want to thank everybody for the massive amount of support on my YouTube channel. I hit 4,000 subs last night. Really appreciate all the support, everybody. I love you so much for supporting my channel and coming and talk to me on my streams. And that's kind of where this video comes from a little bit. First off, my WoW refugee video has hit well over 100,000 views at this point. But I still got quite a bit of people from WoW coming into my stream and asking me questions about Final Fantasy that my video per se didn't answer. Now, I made a video about a year and a half ago. The quality was a little poor. It's a new player guide for Final Fantasy XIV. And 90% of the information in that video is still accurate. However, because it's a year and a half old, when people generally search, it's not going to show up because of how YouTube's algorithm works. So what I decided to do is I'm revamping and redesigning that video, changing the parts that have changed and do need an update, and the other parts just cleaning it up, the text and everything, and re-releasing the video so that people that enjoyed my WoW BFA Refugee to Final Fantasy XIV video, which is linked in the description below, can then watch this video to get more details and more of an explanation of how the game works and a specific guide for getting through and leveling your first characters. So, without further ado, let's do it.
I am Raziel.
Okay, first and foremost, you're going to want to pick a server. Now, the data centers have changed, so this is a new part of this video. The three data centers, if you are in North America, is Aether, Primal, and Crystal. The European data centers are Chaos and Light. The Japanese data centers are Elemental, Gaia, and Mana. Now, if you are in Japan or over in that region, obviously you're going to want to pick a Japanese data center. If you're from Europe, you obviously want to pick that. So you have the highest possible ping, and the lowest possible ping, I should say. And yeah, however, if you are on the North American data center, here are your options. I would personally, if you want to end game raid, the most skilled raiders and PvPers are actually all on the Aether data center. It's where the majority of the most high-end content is done. It also means you're going to probably run into a few more elitists in the few that there are in this game on Aether. Primal is not too much different though. So if you get a better ping on Primal, or you have a friend on Primal, or something like that, Primal is going to be completely fine. The differences between Aether and Primal is a little less populated, and again, it's a few percentage points lower in terms of the quality of Raider and people like that you're going to get. Crystal is kind of known as the it's going to have the most preferred servers as far as what Final Fantasy will recommend for your first tune, but keep in mind that the Crystal data center is kind of heavily focused on RP, role-playing and general silliness, stuff like that. So if that's your jam, pick Crystal. If you want to be the hardcore of the hardcore and have the access to the most intense raiders and the parsing groups and stuff like that, Aether should probably be your choice. If you still want to raid and you want to do all that, but you want to maybe avoid a few more of the elitists, I'd say go Primal. But I myself am on Aether, so that's kind of a general rundown. Take it with a grain of salt, but that is generally true, how I've described the data center. As far as Europe goes, the difference between Chaos and Light, I don't know. I play on North American realm, so I can't tell you. Same with the Japanese data centers, but if you're in those countries, you should pick one of them anyway, obviously. Next up, we have the active help menu. After you get through your first cutscene or set of cutscenes, after you create your character, you'll notice an active help menu pop up when you start to do things in the game. I'd recommend reading the goddamn thing. People say, you know, there are no dumb questions. The only dumb questions are the ones that aren't asked, and that's bullshit. Okay, there are dumb questions, and those are the questions that the game already fucking answered for you if you just would have taken a little bit of time and read through them. Most of the questions you may have as you go through the game, or if it's something for the first time you've experienced, will pop up and tell you how to use it, what to do, and how the game and its mechanics, and how the UI works, things like that. So, you know, pay attention to it. Otherwise, people might just assume that you're just a lazy-ass millennial that, you know, doesn't want to be bothered to use your eyeballs and read the fucking text on the screen.
Next up, I'd recommend adjusting your UI and all your settings. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have mods and things like that. But that doesn't matter, because you can completely adjust your UI as you see me doing here on a new character. You can hold shift while you move the bars around to have it click and snap to the grid points you see in the background. Or you can just drag it wherever you want. You can resize it. You can pretty much do everything. The UI is completely customizable. So if your UI sucks, it's kind of your fault. You can change things however you see fit. If you want it to look like it did in WoW or any other MMO you may play, you can do that. If you wanted to leave it to the default, which I do not recommend, you can do that too. You can save custom layouts, so you can put them on other characters, on other servers, and that sort of thing. You can toggle between hotbars, your system bars, or all of them at once. And take your time and make the UI the way you want it to be. Next on the docket, I recommend you start changing some settings around, to make things a little easier on yourself. You can go in and change your graphic settings and all that kind of shit, but right now I'm going to talk about, again, more on what's displayed on the screen UI-wise. The first thing that I would personally do is make sure that you make it so your entire inventory is shown when you press I or go into your bags, as opposed to having to click each individual bag. A lot of other games, wow, have mods to do this, but it's built right into the game. So change this to expanded in the inventory interface. As you can see here, right now it's if I press I, you only see one bag at a time with tabs 1 through 6 and your key item bag and your crystals bag. But if you apply to expanded, boom, you have everything with just 2 tabs to go through, and a key items and crystals is on its own button there. So I'd recommend doing that first and foremost. The next thing I would do right away is go into your settings and make sure that percentages are shown on life bars. If you do that, go to the UI settings, go to your HUD button, go all the way to the bottom, near the bottom. You can also change the local time, server time, what's displayed. At the very bottom of the list, you can display remaining HP as a percentage. Make sure you apply that, it helps a lot. The next thing on the docket for today, kids, is we're going to talk about very important icons and what they mean in the game. In the description below, you can probably see that I have linked a guide to every single icon in the game. So you can look through those. I know a couple of the Stormblood ones haven't been added yet, but I'm sure that'll be updated shortly. These are icons that are very important for you to know, so you know what you're doing, what you're clicking on as a new player to the game. The first icon here, you see this is what's called a featured quest. That means if you complete this quest, it'll unlock a feature, such as a new job, a new duty, a new dungeon, things like that. If you see these, do them. They're really helpful, and they can continue to unlock things in the game for you to do. If you see this one, this is a repeatable feature quest. Anytime you see this rotating arrow inside of an icon, that's a repeatable quest. You'll see them in many different forms, but if you see this spinning arrow, it's a different quest, and you can repeat it. This is a guild heist icon. The guild heist, and you can read more detailed description of what a guild heist and what a leva quest is on that page that has all the icons. But a guild heist is pretty much like a training exercise that you can join in and queue up for, and these are the quests for it. The icon to show you this guy will give you guild heists. The levy quest icon that you see on the screen now. Levy quests are special quests that you can do for experience on both crafting jobs and combat jobs, but you are limited to the amount you can do per day, and you occur more as you don't do more. They stack up and you can spend them and do them. This is a very, very important one. This is the storyline quest icon. You see this icon? It means that there is the continuation of the storyline. This is what the icon you'll be looking for and following throughout the game. A big exclamation point with flames around it. That means it's part of the main story. You need to do it to continue to progress throughout the story and to get into new areas of the game. Next, we have icons like these. These are fates. If you see a purple icon, and this is just one of them, there are many different icons for fates, but they're all purple and they all have this symbol on the outside. These will appear throughout your map. Use these and to go and do fates. Fates are random world events to get experience. So those are fates. You see an icon like this, That is a novice quest giver, or the person who you will do for the novice missions. The novice missions, which are pretty much basic training for any combat class, begins at level 15. This will unlock at level 15 automatically. You will find them in the base. I will go into more of that later. Next, this is a player icon. Just if you see this next to someone's name, either on a list or when they're standing there, that means they're online. You see this next icon, it means they're currently viewing a cutscene. You see this icon, it means that the player has set their status to busy. You see this icon, it means the player is currently engaged in PvP combat. Usually instance PvP combat, a duty, things like that. This icon means the player is away from keyboard. You see this next icon here. This icon means they are currently queued for a duty but are not in one yet. You see this icon here. It means a player is in another instance of another world. I don't know if they fixed this yet or changed this yet, but I don't think you can whisper someone who is in this status. However, you can see when someone is in an instance duty, a raid, things like that, with this icon here. This icon here means the player is new to the game, brand new, maybe just like you. This icon here means the player is returning to the game. They've been inactive for 45 days or more, and they have this icon next to their name if they're a returning player. You see this icon here? It means the player is on a trial account. So, yeah, that means they probably can't party with you, things like that. You see this icon here? It means the character is a mentor. If you see this next to it, that means they're a good person to ask questions to, because they're a mentor to the game and a mentor in general for just the game questions in general. You see this? This is a PvE mentor. They focus exclusively on answering and helping in PvE content. You see this? This is the same thing except for crafting classes. You see this? Same thing except for PvP exclusively. Oh, and I almost missed one more. See this icon? It's a basic side quest. As a new player, I'd highly recommend trying to save side quests so you can use them to help level up your secondary classes. Not necessary though. There are other ways such as Paths of the Dead to do that, PvP to do that, but you can probably get to level cap at least up till 60 on your first job just doing the main story missions. So keep an eye out for those. Also, if you see any of these icons and they are red with a key on it like this, that means that quest is locked away from you. That means that the quest, you are missing certain requirements. Maybe you're not the right job. Maybe you're not the right level. Things like that. So those are that's just a basic rundown of the most common icons that you'll encounter through your first time leveling up in Eorzea. But there are many, many, many other icons in the game, status symbols, things like that. And again, refer to that link in the description to get a full view of all of that. Next up, I'm going to touch on something I just spoke about a minute ago, a few seconds ago, is the Hall of the Novice. The smith here, you'll see, once at level 15, will unlock with that sprout icon above his head, and then you can access duties to teach you about the game, teach you about the combat mechanics, teach you things about dodging AoE abilities, things like that. So if you want to do that, you can do Halls of the Novice to brush up on your skills of combat in this MMO. Alright, listen up bitches, because this next one is really important. The Aetheryte system. You'll see in the major cities a giant floating crystal like the one you're looking at on the screen right now. This is an Aetheryte. Every one of these you see, you want to attune to. Whether they're big or small, you right click and you'll automatically attune to it if you aren't already. Then you can teleport anywhere in the game to these big Aetherites, but it does cost some gil to do so. Gil is money. Also, like I said, attune to these small ones here, because in the small ones only appear in the towns, and you can use the Aetheryte to travel between the ones you've unlocked free of charge. So that's something you should definitely do. You're going to be in your first starting city for a little while, so attune to every Aetheryte you see, and then every new town you go into, don't forget to attune to these. Also, with these Aetherites, you can set one as your home point, which then you can go travel to for free. It's where you'll resurrect when you die. You can also set favorite points, and those come at a slightly cheaper cost to teleport to. Fuck me, excuse me. And you can continue to do things like that. So I would recommend, again, paying close attention to the Aetherites. Make sure you attune yourself so you can get around Eorzea quickly. But again, keep in mind, it does cost money to travel. So until you get your mount, though, and even after you have your mount, you'll be using these a lot. So make sure You attuned to all of them. All right, Cox, now it's time to put on your big boy or big girl pants and listen up, because this one is vitally important. If you're from World of Warcraft or you're from some other MMO, the hit detection, ability detection, and physics is quite different in this game, as you'll probably see in the background as I'm trying to display. This is from older footage, but I think you'll get the gist. If you'll remember, if you've ever played World of Warcraft, when a boss does an ability, like a big AoE ability, you may see a effect on the ground, and then once the effect disappears, the actual animation comes in. If you are hit by the animation, you take damage, things like that. It's a little different in Final Fantasy. There are a lot of AoE and ground effects, and the enemies broadcast a lot of their attacks, with effects on the ground, as you can see here in the footage. You must move out of them before the effects disappear. If you wait until it disappears and then move out of the way, and the animation, it may look like on the screen when the enemy does the animation that it didn't hit you, but it will still register as a hit. The server looks for where you are standing when the effect disappears, when the ground effect, when the warning sign disappears. If it registers that even your toe was still in it when it disappeared, you will get hit. This can also work in your advantage. So if you see something on the ground show up, you move out of it, it disappears, you can move back into that spot, and even though the animation that the boss or enemy does looks like it hits you, you will take no damage. So just keep an eye on those. Don't stand in bad. It takes a while to get used to. For me, it did for a while. For a while, I didn't like it, but now I don't mind it at all. And it's something that you should always keep in mind. The physics of this game and how detection works is different. There are quite a few abilities in the game that require you to be facing your opponent, but that's nothing new in an MMO. And there's also abilities in the game that remove that requirement. Anyway, keep that in mind when you start into combat, and it's something that you will learn in the Halls of the Novice, and something you will learn through trial and error. But just keep that in mind. It's very important. You don't want to piss off your groups because you're standing in things and not moving away in time. Next up on the list, we're going to talk about classes and alts and things like that. Now, if you didn't already know, in Final Fantasy, there is absolutely no purpose to make a bunch of alts. The only time you make new characters is if you want to play on a different server, in my opinion. Alts really serve no purpose in this game. Why, you ask? Well, because in Final Fantasy XIV, you can be every fucking class in the game on one character and freely switch between them all. Most classes, to unlock, you simply find the quest, and they usually say something like, so you want to be a blank, so you want to be a carpenter, so you want to be a lancer, so you want to be a thaumaturge, so you want to be a gladiator, whatever. You have to do those to unlock the class, and then once you've got the class, it starts at level 1. And also keep in mind that if you have a character, one of your jobs classes, at level cap, at that point you get bonus experience for all the other jobs of that type you level up. So if you have a maxed out crafter, all your other crafters will level up faster. If you are a maxed out, dragoon, then all the other combat classes, including the mages, the magic classes, you'll level up quicker. So you just go in your inventory there, switch your character around, switch your job, switch your class at any time, as long as you are not in combat or you are not in an instance. You can change your class at any time. You can save the loadouts of your character's gear instantly, and it will, the second you switch jobs, it will switch to that gear set. Very simple to do, so it's something no other MMO has. So keep that in mind and enjoy it. Also keep in mind that crafting classes in this game, that's right, they're all classes that have rotations themselves, so you can craft gear. I highly recommend that it is something you do. It's something that I've just barely started doing. I've been playing the game for 3 years, and I regret not having leveled up some crafting classes from the get-go. But you can start your crafting class out in the same way you would start out any other job. You find the trainer, the person that has the quest with the blue plus, like I showed you earlier, that says, so you want to be a name of the class right there. Start that quest up, start crafting. I highly recommend. There's a lot of websites about crafting. I'll put a link in the description again about crafting guides. Take a look at those, because crafting is a huge moneymaker in this game. Crafting, just do it. Just fucking do it. I mean, come on. Look at this little guy here crafting away. Look at this cat bitch in the corner. She's crafting shit too. Yeah. Crafting's awesome. Next up, man, if I had $1 for every time I heard an ex-WoW player bitch about this, I'd be a very fucking rich man. Well, a richer man than I am already. Anyway, what you do, people always complain, oh, the global cooldown's so slow. In combat, things like that. That's true at the beginning of the game. You can't judge this game based off that. You start out with very few abilities, but as you level up, they get better and better, and you get more and more. You get a lot of new abilities that are off the global cooldown, because yes, the GCD is longer than, say, World of Warcraft and some other MMOs. But it doesn't feel longer when you get to end game, because you get a lot of off GCD abilities that you can weave and learn, and that's why the skill cap is so high. You learn when to weave those into your rotation and how to be an effective player at the game. Okay? So I don't want to hear any of this bitching about people saying that the combat's slow. It's not fucking slow. It's slow at the beginning. A little. But once you get further into the game, it's really not even noticeable anymore, and in fact I far prefer it over simply spamming 1 through 4 like you do in World of Warcraft for every fucking class in the game, with occasional cooldown thrown in here and there, and you just macro all the buttons into a single button. You can't do that. You can macro in Final Fantasy, but you're not going to get away with that kind of cheesy, lame, low skill cap bullshit here, okay? So that was a rant. Anyway, the combat and the GCD in this game will take some getting used to, but give it a chance. Even the first, like, you really don't start to see it pick up. You know, I didn't anyway. I didn't feel that way until, you know, I was in the level 30s and above. So it doesn't take that long to level as a new player, so just keep it going, stick with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's a very, very, very rewarding combat system, and also very punishing if you play poorly. Okay, so you followed my guide up to this point. You've done everything you've been told, and you love me for it. Now, what's next? How do you level? How do you get started? Like I said, the storyline will be key for you in leveling up in Final Fantasy XIV on your first job. You can skip the cutscenes if you want and always watch them later in an inn or in your house. However, I recommend for the first time through, especially if you're looking for a good story in an RPG game, I'd recommend watching them. Don't speed through, you know, get to level cap as fast as you can, like people do nowadays in MMOs. Savor it, enjoy it. It's a fantastic story. It makes you feel a part of it. So find those storyline quests and go along with it. Once you hit level cap and you say, all right, I want to level up a different job, that's a combat job, I highly recommend the Paths of the Dead, or Palace of the Dead, whatever. Paths of the Dead. Go to Quarry Mill. You've probably unlocked that because you got the Aether. It's called Deep Dungeon. It has lots of names. Paths of the Dead, Palace of the Dead, Deep Dungeon. But you come here and you can start, and it's a good way to also learn your new class, because you start out at level 1. The gear you have equipped doesn't matter, and you get your abilities as you level up through the dungeon. The floors go all the way up to 200. It's you go floor by floor by floor by floor. Every 10 floors you complete, you get roughly a fourth to a third of a level. So it's a good way to level up, especially if you're doing it on an alternate job after you've already hit 1 to level cap. So I highly recommend doing it. There are guides all over the internet about Deep Dungeon. In fact, I'll link one of those in the description below too. You can thank me later.
In addition, once reaching level 61, you can do much of the same as you see here with Heaven on High, which is the higher level version of Deep Dungeon, Paths of the Dead. It's in Ankoro in the Ruby Sea, and it's here that you can unlock this at level 61, and you can do the same to get to level cap as you did to get to level 50, 60-ish on the Deep Dungeon runs as well.
Well, with my guide almost being over, I think it's good to hit on a very key point. I've mentioned in other videos that the community in Final Fantasy XIV is outstanding, and I stand by that. Now, if you're coming from World of Warcraft, the steaming pile of shit community that is just a festering, stagnant, disgusting batch of shit stains in your underwear, then I highly recommend you take this next part to heart. This community is great. It incentivizes you to be friendly to other people. So be friendly. In no other MMO, I can't remember the last time I logged into WoW, and right at the beginning of a dungeon or a raid I joined, you see everybody say, hello, how are you? That's very, very common in Final Fantasy. So they also have a great translator, so if there's someone who speaks another language, it'll pop up and you can still read what they're saying, basic commands like hello and hi and things like that. So be friendly, you guys. Go back to the old years of when you were young and you explored an MMO and you wanted to make friends and you wanted to be kind to other people, because it comes back to you. Because in Final Fantasy, it does come back to you. You perform well, you get player commendations. You are kind to people, they want to keep playing with you. If you're complete total dickwad and a fucking elitist piece of shit like most of the people are in WoW, you're not going to get very far and you're going to get blacklisted. So pay attention, be friendly, don't rage. There are no DPS meters to slap each other in the face with your e-dicks with. So continue the trend. If you're coming from World of Warcraft, leave that community behind and start fresh. Alright, the final thing on my guide for the day, guys, is this. The economy. Final Fantasy XIV has one. That's it for my guide, guys. Thanks for watching. Oh, wait. You want to know more about that? That's right. Final Fantasy XIV has an economy. Why? Because the crafting is so good. Because the crafting is relevant. You can make a lot of money. The auction house is great. You can search for items. You can pick items from all different multiple classes. And you get retainers. What a retainer is, it's an NPC that sells things on the auction house for you. But you want to be smart. You want to make sure your retainer is selling on the markets that have the lowest tax. And the taxes fluctuate. That's right. You can also browse through and see what that item you're trying to sell previously sold for and adjust your price accordingly. You don't have to take it off the auction house and repost it at the new price. You can adjust it right there on the fly. Also, you can have up to 2 retainers with a basic account, and for every additional retainer up to 6 total that you add into the game, you can cost an extra $2 a month, and you can even turn your retainers into jobs themselves, crafting jobs, fighting jobs, to go out and explore and find items for you to sell. Send them on missions, but it's in a much better way than the fucking garrison or class hall is. You send them out, they come back with stuff, you can then sell it on the auction house, things like that. So, yeah, big surprise. Final Fantasy XIV has an economy that isn't based around just potions, food, and tokens that buy you game time. What a fucking novel idea. Anyway, guys, that's it for retainers and the market board. Alright, guys and gals, that pretty much wraps it up for my very quick, in Raziel's standards, guide to Final Fantasy for beginners and people that are ex-WoW players or ex-MMO players of other kinds, or they've never played an MMO in their fucking life and they want to play the game. So, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them down in the comment section below. I may get around to reading it, I may not. You can also put in what you want, kind of content you want to see me produce in the future for Final Fantasy XIV. I've already got a schedule lined up, but I am taking all considerations. Also, everybody, please like and subscribe and share the video if you found it useful, or, if you didn't, thumbs down. I don't give a fuck. You can go fuck yourself. Well, guys, that was my updated guide. I really didn't have to update that much aside from text on the screen that the old font looked like complete dog balls. And I added in some stuff about the data centers and Heaven on High, but mostly everything is still pretty accurate. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please let me know. Also, please, if you like my content, please subscribe, hit the alert bell so you get notifications. You'll get notifications there when I'm live on Twitch. You can find my Twitch schedule in the About section as well. Please come by if you have any other questions, something I missed. I'm more than happy, and so is my chat, is happy to help you out. Thank you so much for the support. Hitting 4K subs this month has been really fantastic. As always, my friends, keep it real, and have a good one.